The escape pod tumbled through space like a broken toy. Its metal hull was burned black in places, and sparks flew from damaged systems. Inside the Galactic Federation ship Zephyr, the crew watched the small craft drift toward them. Commander. Vextar stood 8 feet tall on his powerful legs. His green scales caught the bridge lights as he turned his massive head toward the viewing screen. Like all Korthak, he was built for war. His people had conquered 12 star systems before, joining the Federation. "Another refugee," he said in his deep voice. "These outer rim conflicts create so many displaced beings." The communications officer, a thin, blue-skinned Zelani named Kipros, worked at his station. "The pod is badly damaged, Commander. Life signs are weak but present. Single occupant." "Bring it aboard," Vextar ordered. "We follow Federation protocol for all rescue operations." The Zephyr's tractor beam pulled the escape pod into the cargo bay. Security teams moved into position as the bay doors sealed shut. The crew had learned to be careful with unknown vessels. Some species were more dangerous than they appeared. Dr. Zilmoth, the ship's medical officer, rushed to the cargo bay with her team. She was a Vorthak, a race known for their healing abilities. Her 4 arms moved quickly as she prepared medical equipment. Her large black eyes could see things other species missed. The security team leader, Captain Mordell, kept his weapon ready. He was a massive Gorvani, nearly 9 feet tall and covered in thick fur. His people were known as some of the fiercest warriors in the galaxy. "Opening the pod now," reported one of the technicians. The small hatch hissed open. Inside lay a tiny figure that made the aliens step back in surprise. It was clearly a mammalian species, but incredibly small compared to any sentient race they knew. "By the 7 moons," whispered Dr. Zilmoth. "What is this creature?" The being inside was female. They could tell that much. She had long, dark hair and pale skin. Her clothes were torn and burned from whatever disaster had put her in the pod. She couldn't be more than 5.5 feet tall, and she looked incredibly fragile. "The database shows this is a human," reported Kipros from his portable scanner. "From the planet Earth in the Sol system. They achieved space travel only recently." Captain Mordell lowered his weapon slightly. "This tiny thing is supposed to be intelligent? She looks like she might break if I breathe too hard." Dr. Zilmoth moved closer to examine the unconscious human. Her scanner showed basic life signs: heartbeat, breathing, brain activity. All seemed normal for a mammalian species, but everything was so small and weak compared to galactic standards. "Her bones are incredibly thin," the doctor reported. "Muscle density is very low. I don't understand how such a fragile species could survive on any world, much less develop technology." The human woman appeared to be unconscious, her eyes closed and her breathing shallow. There were cuts and burns on her arms and face, but nothing that looked life-threatening to the alien medical team. "Take her to Medical Bay 3, ordered Commander Vextar. "Keep her isolated until we know more about her species. Some mammals carry diseases." As the medical team lifted the small human onto a stretcher, several crew members gathered to look. They had never seen anything so delicate, that claimed to be intelligent life. "She's smaller than most of our children," laughed one of the engineers, a stocky dwarven-like Korthek. "How do humans fight wars? Do they throw pebbles at each other?" "Maybe they're a prey species that got lucky," suggested another crew member. "Found some ancient technology and learned to copy it." Commander Vextar studied the unconscious human as they carried her away. In his long military career, he had fought against dozens of different species, The dangerous ones usually showed it in their build, thick bones, large muscles, natural weapons like claws or fangs. This human had none of that. "Sir," said Kipros, "I'm reading some interesting data from her pod's computer. It looks like she was fleeing from some kind of conflict in her home system." "What kind of conflict could threaten such a weak species?" asked Vextar. "The records are damaged, but it mentioned something about territorial disputes with neighboring systems. Perhaps other species are trying to claim their world?" This made sense to the commander. A weak species like humans would be easy targets for expansion-minded civilizations. Their small size and fragile build made them natural victims in the harsh reality of galactic politics. In Medical Bay 3, Dr. Zilmoth worked to treat the human's injuries. The woman remained unconscious, but her vital signs were stable. The doctor found the human body fascinating from a scientific viewpoint. Her bone structure is incredibly light, she noted to her assistant. Almost hollow in places like a flying creature, but the muscle attachment points show she's clearly ground-dwelling. "Perhaps her world has very low gravity?" suggested the assistant. "No. The database shows Earth gravity is actually quite high by galactic standards. Yet somehow this fragile species evolved there. It makes no sense. The human's injuries were minor by galactic medical standards. A few burns that would heal quickly, some cuts that barely needed attention. What amazed Dr. Zilmoth was how such a delicate creature had survived whatever disaster destroyed her ship. "Doctor," called her assistant, "she's waking up." The woman's eyes opened slowly. They were brown, an unusual color that seemed to take in everything around her. She didn't move at first, just lay still and observed her surroundings. "Hello," said Dr. Zilmoth in Galactic Standard. "You are safe now. We rescued your escape pod." The human turned her head toward the voice. Her movements were careful and controlled, not the panicked reactions most rescued beings showed when they woke up surrounded by alien species. "Thank you," the human said softly. Her voice was higher than most galactic species, fitting her small size. "I am Lisa Martinez, xenobiologist from Earth." Dr. Zilmoth was impressed that the human could speak Galactic Standard, though her accent was strange. "You are aboard the Federation ship Zephyr. I am Dr. Zilmoth, Chief Medical Officer." Lisa tried to sit up, then winced and lay back down. "My ship was attacked. I barely made it to the escape pod in time." "What attacked your vessel?" asked the doctor. "Pirates, I think. Or maybe territory raiders. It happened so fast." Lisa's voice carried pain and fear, exactly what anyone would expect from a traumatized refugee. Dr. Zilmoth made notes on her medical pad. The human seemed cooperative and grateful, which was good. Some species became aggressive when stressed, but this one appeared naturally passive. "You will recover quickly," the doctor assured her. "Your species seems quite resilient despite its physical limitations." Lisa nodded weakly. "We humans are tougher than we look, Doctor. We have to be." The doctor found this statement curious, but didn't pursue it. In her experience, small prey species often developed psychological coping mechanisms to deal with their weakness. Perhaps humans told themselves they were strong to feel better about their obvious physical disadvantages. "Rest now," Dr. Zilmoth said. "Commander Vextar will want to speak with you when you feel better." As the medical team left, Lisa remained still on the bed. Her brown eyes moved carefully around the room, taking in every detail of the alien medical equipment and security measures. To any observer, she looked like exactly what she claimed to be, a small, fragile refugee grateful for rescue. But behind those brown eyes, a sharp intelligence was already working. Lisa Martinez was indeed a xenobiologist, but she was much more than that. And the aliens who thought they had rescued a helpless victim were about to learn a very dangerous lesson about making assumptions based on appearances. 3 days had passed since Lisa Martinez woke up in the medical bay. Dr. Zilmoth had cleared her for normal activities, though she remained in the secured guest quarters under careful watch. The crew found the small human fascinating in the way. Scientists might study an unusual insect. Commander Vextar sat across from Lisa in the ship's main conference room. The table between them was designed for much larger beings, making Lisa look even tinier in her chair. Her feet barely touched the floor. "Tell me about your species, Miss Martinez," the commander said. His deep voice rumbled through the room like distant thunder. "The Federation has little information about humans." Lisa folded her hands in her lap and spoke in a soft voice. "We're a young species, Commander. We only reached space about 200 years ago. Earth is our homeworld, and we have maybe 30 colonies in nearby systems." Captain Mordell, who stood guard by the door, snorted with amusement. 30 colonies in 200 years? My people conquered more systems than that in a single campaign. "We're not really built for conquest," Lisa said with what seemed like sadness. "We're more interested in science and exploration." This made perfect sense to the aliens present. Looking at Lisa, they couldn't imagine her species being effective. Warriors. She was so small that Captain Mordell could probably crush her with one hand. "What is your population?" asked Vextar. "About 15 billion across all our worlds," Lisa replied. "Earth holds most of us, maybe 12 billion. The aliens exchanged glances. Those were impressive numbers for such a young species, but raw population meant little if the individuals were weak. Quantity could never truly replace quality in galactic affairs. "Tell us about human society," requested Dr. Zilmoth, who had joined them to continue her study of this unusual species. "How do you organize yourselves?" Lisa seemed happy to answer. "We have many different nations and cultures on Earth. Some disagreements, but we mostly work together now that we're exploring space. We had to learn cooperation to survive." "Survive what?" asked Vextar. "Oh, just the usual challenges of evolution," Lisa said with a small smile. "Earth is a difficult world in many ways." Dr. Zilmoth looked confused. "But your physiology suggests you evolved on a world with abundant resources. Your bone structure, your muscle development. Everything indicates a very comfortable environment." Lisa's smile grew a bit wider. "Appearances can be misleading, Doctor. Earth has always been a challenging place to live." The ship's science officer, Dr. Kelmris, had been quietly taking notes during the conversation. He was a tall, thin being from a species known for their analytical minds. Something about the humans' responses bothered him, but he couldn't identify what. "Miss Martinez," he said, "could you tell us about human physical capabilities? Our scans show you're quite different from most galactic species." "Different how?" Lisa asked. "Well, your cardiovascular system is remarkably efficient. Your brain consumes an unusual amount of energy, and your muscle fibers show signs of being adapted for endurance rather than strength." Lisa nodded. "That sounds right. Humans are distance runners, not sprinters. We can keep going for a long time, even when we're tired or hurt." "Distance runners?" Captain Mordell laughed. "What could you possibly need to run from, or run toward, for that matter? On Earth, we used to hunt by chasing our prey until it collapsed from exhaustion," Lisa explained calmly. "We're not fast, but we don't give up. Eventually, everything gets tired and stops running." The aliens found this hard to believe. Dr. Zilmoth ran more scans on Lisa's legs and found that her statement was actually supported by her physiology. The human's legs were indeed built for long-distance travel, not speed or power. That seems like a very inefficient hunting method, observed Dr. Kelmris. It worked well enough, Lisa said. We hunted mammoths that way, and giant ground sloths, and cave bears. Most of the large animals on our world, actually. You hunted creatures larger than yourselves? Vextar asked with obvious disbelief. Much larger. Some mammoths were 4 times taller than humans and weighed as much as your shuttlecraft. Lisa spoke matter-of-factly, as if discussing the weather. We hunted them in groups, of course. Coordination was always our strength. Captain Mordell shook his massive head. Impossible. No species your size could take down creatures that large. We didn't fight them directly, Lisa explained patiently. We used tools, spears, traps, fire, and we worked together. One human alone is weak, but a group of humans with a plan can accomplish almost anything. Dr. Kelmris made more notes. The human's casual mention of group hunting behavior was interesting from a xenobiological perspective. Pack hunting required significant intelligence and communication skills. These large creatures you hunted, said Dr. Zilmoth. Are they still present on your world? Lisa's expression grew sad. No, they're all extinct now. Humans were very effective hunters. Maybe too effective. You hunted entire species to extinction? Vextar asked. Several species, actually. It wasn't intentional at first. We were just trying to survive. But yes, once humans arrived in an area, the large predators and prey animals usually disappeared within a few thousand years. The aliens absorbed this information. It painted an interesting picture of human development, but it still didn't explain how such a physically weak species had achieved space travel. Tell us about human technology, requested Dr. Kelmris. How did your people develop faster than light travel? We didn't, Lisa said simply. We still use slower-than-light ships for everything. The journey to our farthest colonies takes decades. This surprised the aliens. Every spacefaring species they knew had developed FTL technology within centuries of achieving spaceflight. Without it, maintaining an interstellar civilization was nearly impossible. But you said you have 30 colonies, pointed out Vextar. We do. Humans are very patient when we need to be. We send out colony ships knowing that the people who start the journey won't live to see the destination. Their children or grandchildren will. That requires incredible social stability, observed Dr. Kelmris. Most species would abandon such projects within a generation. Lisa nodded. Humans are good at long-term planning. We have to be. Our individual lives are short, but we think about what we're leaving for our descendants. Captain Mordell found this boring. What about your military? How do humans fight wars? We try to avoid wars when possible, Lisa said. But when we do fight, we use the same principles as our hunting. Patience, coordination, and superior numbers. Superior numbers mean nothing if the individuals are weak, Mordell stated confidently. That depends on how many numbers we're talking about, Lisa replied quietly, and on how well coordinated they are. Dr. Zilmoth was fascinated by human reproduction rates. Your species seems remarkably fertile. 15 billion individuals in such a short evolutionary time span suggests very successful breeding. Humans are survivors, Lisa agreed. We adapt to almost any environment. Hot, cold, high altitude, low altitude, different atmospheric pressures. There are human settlements in places other species consider uninhabitable. Such adaptability usually comes at the cost of specialization, noted Dr. Kelmris. Species that can live anywhere rarely excel at anything specific. Lisa's smile returned. Humans excel at learning. We're very good at copying what works and improving on it. We study other species and adapt their successful strategies to our own needs. This conversation continued for several hours. The aliens learned that humans had survived multiple ice ages, global catastrophes, and periods of scarcity that would have destroyed most species. Yet Lisa described these challenges in the same calm tone she used for everything else. By the end of the session, the aliens had formed a clear picture of humanity. They were a young, numerous species that had succeeded through persistence and cooperation rather than individual strength. Their physical weakness was compensated by intelligence and social organization. "Thank you for your time, Miss Martinez," said Commander Vextar. "This information will be valuable for the Federation's first contact protocols with your species." "Happy to help," Lisa replied. "I hope our species can be friends." As the aliens left the conference room, they discussed what they had learned. All agreed that humans seemed like a peaceful, if unremarkable, addition to galactic civilization. Their small size and physical limitations would keep them from being major players in galactic politics. Lisa remained in the conference room for a few minutes after they left. She looked around at the alien furniture and technology with those careful brown eyes. Her expression never changed from the mild, grateful smile she had worn throughout the entire interview. But in her mind, she was cataloging everything she had observed. The aliens' assumptions about human weakness were exactly what she had hoped for. Their dismissive attitude toward human capabilities was precisely the reaction her mission had been designed to provoke. The small, harmless xenobiologist had given them exactly the information they expected to hear, and in doing so, she had learned far more about them than they had learned about her. Lisa had been aboard the Zephyr for a week now. The crew had grown comfortable with her presence, treating her more like an interesting pet than a potential threat. She spent her days in the ship's library, reading about galactic history and asking innocent questions about different species. Dr. Kelmris had become her unofficial guide to galactic civilization. The tall scientist enjoyed explaining things to someone who seemed genuinely curious about learning. Today, they sat in the ship's observation deck, looking out at the stars. The Galactic Federation has maintained peace for over 3,000 years, Dr. Kelmris explained. We've learned that cooperation serves everyone better than constant warfare. Lisa nodded thoughtfully. That's wonderful, though I suppose there are still conflicts sometimes? Of course. Border disputes, resource disagreements, territorial expansions. But the Federation mediates these issues before they become major wars. What about species that don't want to join the Federation? Lisa asked. Dr. Kelmris shifted uncomfortably. Well, most species see the benefits of membership. Those that don't usually change their minds eventually. Eventually? Economic pressure? Diplomatic isolation, sometimes military demonstrations. The Federation has ways of encouraging cooperation. Lisa made a soft sound of understanding. I see. And I suppose smaller, weaker species like humans don't have much choice in these matters. The Federation protects smaller species, Dr. Kelmris assured her quickly, as long as they follow Federation law and contribute what they can. The conversation was interrupted by Captain Mordell, who approached with his usual heavy footsteps. The massive Gorvani warrior looked down at Lisa with something approaching amusement. Still learning about galactic politics, little human? He asked. I find it fascinating, Lisa replied. Captain, I'm curious about something. Dr. Kelmris mentioned that the Federation sometimes needs to use military force. How does that work against species that resist? Mordell laughed, a sound like boulders grinding together. Resistance is usually brief. Most species surrender once they see what they're facing. But what if they don't surrender? Lisa pressed gently. Then we remind them why the Federation has remained peaceful for 3,000 years, Mordell said, with a predatory grin. Strong species protect the weak. In return, the weak serve the strong. It's the natural order. Lisa tilted her head slightly. That makes sense. Though I wonder what happens when the strong aren't as strong as they think they are. What do you mean? Asked Dr. Kelmris. Oh, just something from human history, Lisa said casually. We had many empires that thought they were unbeatable. They all fell eventually. How could they fall? Mordell asked with genuine curiosity. If they were the strongest, what could defeat them? Lisa was quiet for a moment, looking out at the stars. Usually time and patience. Strong empires get comfortable. They stop expecting challenges. Meanwhile, the people they consider weak are learning, adapting, growing stronger. But surely your human empires were different, said Dr. Kelmris. Your species is naturally weak. What could human empires do against real military power? You'd be surprised, Lisa replied softly. Humans can be very creative when we're threatened, Mordell snorted. Creative how? You can't create strength where none exists. Lisa smiled that gentle smile she wore so often. Would you like to hear a story from human history, Captain? It might interest you, I suppose, Mordell said, settling, his bulk into a nearby chair. There was once a great empire on Earth called Rome, Lisa began. They had the strongest military in the known world, professional soldiers, advanced weapons, superior tactics. They conquered most of Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. Sounds like a proper empire, Mordell approved. They thought so too. But there was a problem. Rome needed constant expansion to maintain their economy and feed their people. Eventually, they encountered peoples they considered barbarians, small tribes with primitive weapons and no formal military training. Dr. Kelmris leaned forward with interest. What happened? At first, Rome won easily. The tribal warriors were brave but disorganized. Rome would defeat them in battle, take their lands, and move on to the next conquest. As it should be, said Mordell. But the barbarians learned from each defeat. They studied Roman tactics, adapted Roman weapons, and began working together instead of fighting as separate tribes. More importantly, they understood something Rome had forgotten. What was that? Asked Dr. Kelmris. That empires need their borders to survive. Rome had grown so large that they couldn't defend everywhere at once. So the barbarians stopped trying to fight Rome's strength and started attacking Rome's weaknesses. Lisa paused to look at her alien audience. Both were listening intently now. The barbarians used hit-and-run tactics. They would attack a Roman outpost, kill the soldiers, and disappear before reinforcements arrived. They poisoned wells, burned supply lines, and turned Roman allies against them. Every time Rome sent an army to punish them, they would melt away, into forests and mountains where Roman formations couldn't follow. Cowards' tactics, Mordell growled. Perhaps, Lisa agreed. But effective. Rome had to maintain garrisons everywhere, which spread their forces thin. They had to guard every supply convoy, which slowed their movements. They couldn't trust their local allies, which left them isolated in hostile territory. Still, Rome was stronger, Dr. Kelmris pointed out. In direct battle, yes, but the barbarians weren't fighting direct battles anymore. They were fighting a different kind of war, one that Rome wasn't prepared for. And while Rome was dealing with barbarian raids on one frontier, other barbarian tribes were learning the same tactics on other frontiers. Lisa's voice remained calm and conversational, as if she were discussing the weather. The process took centuries, but eventually Rome fell. Not in a single great battle, but slowly, piece by piece. The barbarians had patience that matched their creativity. They were willing to fight for generations to achieve their goals. Captain Mordell was frowning now. That's just one example. And those Romans were probably weak to begin with? Maybe, Lisa said, though Rome lasted over 1,000 years, which suggests they weren't entirely weak. But you're right. It's just one example. She looked thoughtful for a moment. Though now that I think about it, the same pattern happened many times in human history. Strong empires falling to weaker enemies who refused to fight by the empire's rules. Such as, challenged Dr. Kelmris. The British Empire lost to American colonists who used forest fighting tactics the British couldn't counter. The Spanish Empire lost to South American rebels who turned Spain's own colonial policies against them. The Soviet Union fell to economic warfare they couldn't match. Lisa paused. Even in my own lifetime, we've seen large, powerful nations defeated by small groups that refuse to fight conventional wars. The pattern is always the same. Strength defeats strength, but intelligence defeats strength. You make it sound like humans are warlike, observed Dr. Kelmris. Not warlike exactly, Lisa corrected, but we're very good at warfare when we need to be. Thousands of years of practice, I suppose. Captain Mordell looked uncomfortable. These are just human examples. Galactic civilization is different. We have technology your primitive ancestors never dreamed of. That's true, Lisa agreed readily. Though I wonder if that makes things easier or harder. What do you mean? Well, the more complex a system becomes, the more ways there are to break it. A stone axe has very few failure points, but a starship has thousands. And the more dependent you become on complex technology, the more vulnerable you are when that technology fails. She gestured toward the observation deck's large windows. This ship is amazing, but what happens if someone figures out how to disable its power systems? Or its navigation computers? Or its communication arrays? Dr. Kelmris laughed nervously. Our systems have multiple redundancies and security measures. It would take incredible expertise to compromise them. I'm sure it would, Lisa said with a smile. Though humans have always been good at learning new skills when we need to. The conversation continued for another hour, with Lisa asking seemingly innocent questions about Federation military doctrine, ship design, and communication protocols. Her alien companions answered freely, treating her curiosity as natural for a primitive species trying to understand galactic civilization. By the time they parted company, both aliens were feeling slightly unsettled, though neither could quite say why. Lisa's stories about human history were interesting, but hardly relevant to galactic affairs. Her questions were perfectly reasonable for someone trying to understand her new environment. Still, something about the small human's quiet confidence bothered them. She spoke about warfare and empire building with the same calm tone she used for everything else, as if violence and conquest were just natural parts of existence. Lisa returned to her quarters that evening and sat quietly on her bed, reviewing everything she had learned. The aliens' technology was impressive but not incomprehensible. Their security measures were thorough but not impenetrable. Most importantly, their assumptions about human capabilities remained exactly where she wanted them. Tomorrow, she would ask more questions about Federation patrol routes and communication schedules, all perfectly innocent inquiries from a rescued refugee trying to understand when she might be returned to human space. The small, harmless xenobiologist continue. 2 weeks after her rescue, Lisa stood in the Zephyr's Navigation Center with Commander Vextar and Dr. Kelmris. The massive, reptilian commander had agreed to help her locate Earth's current position so the Federation could establish proper first contact protocols. "The coordinates from your escape pod were corrupted," explained Navigator Zintal, a 6-armed insectoid who managed the ship's stellar cartography. "Can you provide us with Earth's location relative to any known star systems?" Lisa appeared to think carefully. "Let me see. Earth is in what we call the Sol system. There's a bright double-star system about 12 light-years away that we call Alpha Centauri. Would that help?" Zintal's multiple arms danced across the navigation controls. "Yes, that's Proxima Alpha in our charts. If Earth is 12 light-years. From there..." The navigator paused, checking multiple star charts. "That would put your home system right about here." A 3-dimensional star map appeared in the center of the room. A small blue dot marked the calculated position of Earth's solar system. Commander Vextar studied the location with interest. "That's very close to the Outer Rim territories. No wonder you've had problems with raiders and pirates." "It's been difficult," Lisa agreed sadly. "Our colonies are spread out across several systems in that region. We've had to abandon some of them when the attacks got too bad." Dr. Kelmris made notes on his data pad. "The Federation will need to survey that entire area to establish proper security. There are several unclaimed systems that could be developed for colonization." "I'd be happy to help with that," Lisa offered. "I know the locations of all our major settlements. Maybe we could work out some kind of mutual defense agreement." "An excellent idea," said Vextar. "The Federation always prefers cooperation to conflict." Navigator Zintal was still working with the stellar maps. "Commander, there are some interesting readings from that region. Long-range sensors are picking up unusual energy signatures." "What kind of signatures?" Vextar asked. "Unknown configuration. Possibly advanced technology. But the patterns don't match any known Federation or non-aligned species." Lisa moved closer to look at the display. "Could it be human technology? We've been experimenting with new power systems for our colony ships." "Perhaps," said Zintal. "Though these readings suggest something much more sophisticated than your species should be capable of producing." "Maybe we found some old alien ruins," Lisa suggested hopefully. "That would be exciting from a xenoarchaeological perspective, Commander." Vextar made a command decision. "Set course for those coordinates. If there are unknown technologies in that region, the Federation needs to investigate, and we can return Miss Martinez to her people at the same time." The Zephyr changed course toward the coordinates Lisa had provided. The journey would take several days at maximum warp, giving the crew time to prepare for whatever they might find. Lisa spent those days continuing her gentle investigation of the ship's systems and crew. She had become friends with several of the junior officers who enjoyed talking with the curious human about their duties and responsibilities. Engineer Telvar, a young Korthak who maintained the ship's power systems, was particularly talkative. He showed Lisa through the engineering sections, explaining how Federation starships operated. The main reactor produces energy through controlled fusion, he explained proudly. It's the most efficient power source in the galaxy. Fascinating, Lisa said, examining the reactor controls with obvious interest. What happens if these control systems fail? We have backup systems, Telvar assured her, and manual overrides for every major function. But what if someone wanted to sabotage the reactor? Hypothetically, I mean. For a novel, I'm thinking of writing. Telvar laughed. It would be almost impossible. You'd need detailed knowledge of Federation engineering, plus physical access to restricted areas, plus the right tools and expertise. Even then, our security systems would detect any unauthorized modifications. Unless someone knew how to avoid the security systems, Lisa mused. That would require clearance codes that only senior officers possess, Telvar explained. And the knowledge to modify complex systems without triggering alarms. Lisa nodded thoughtfully. I suppose it would take someone with extensive technical training, like an engineer or scientist. Exactly. Which is why we're so careful about who gets access to critical systems. Their conversation was interrupted by an announcement from the bridge. All crew to alert stations. We are approaching the target coordinates. Lisa followed Telvar back to the main corridors as crew members hurried to their posts. The atmosphere aboard the ship had changed from routine boredom to focused attention. On the bridge, Commander Vexitar studied the tactical displays with growing concern. Report, he ordered. Sir, we're detecting multiple ships in the target system, reported the sensor operator. Configuration unknown, but they appear to be military vessels. How many ships? Asked Captain Mordell. At least 20, sir. Possibly more. They're using some kind of stealth technology that's interfering with our sensors. Dr. Kelmris looked confused. But this system should be uninhabited. Our charts show no major colonies or industrial facilities. Lisa moved closer to the tactical display, her expression showing appropriate concern. Those aren't human ships, are they? Our designs are much more basic. The sensor operator adjusted his equipment. No, these appear to be highly advanced vessels. Technology level exceeds even Federation standards in some areas. Commander Vexitar felt a cold certainty settle in his stomach. Battle stations. Raise shields and charge weapons. Sir, called the communications officer. We're being hailed. On screen, the main viewer activated to show the bridge of an unknown starship. The figure that appeared was humanoid, but clearly not from any known species. He wore what appeared to be military dress and spoke in heavily accented galactic standard. Federation vessel, you have entered human territorial space without authorization. State your business here. Commander Vexitar stepped forward. I am Commander Vexitar of the Federation ship Zephyr. We are returning a human refugee to her people and investigating reports of unknown technology in this region. The alien captain's eyes moved to Lisa, who raised her hand in a small wave. Hello, Captain Morrison. Sorry for the delay. I got a little sidetracked. The alien called. Morrison smiled. No problem, Agent Martinez. Did you get what we needed? Complete intelligence package on Federation ship design, crew protocols, and strategic capabilities, Lisa replied in a voice that was suddenly much more professional than it had been for the past 2 weeks. Commander Vexitar felt the bottom drop out of his world. Agent Martinez? Lisa turned to face him, and her entire demeanor had changed. Gone was the soft-spoken, grateful refugee. In her place stood someone with the cold confidence of a trained operative. Lisa Martinez, Human Intelligence Division, Deep Cover Operations, she said calmly. And you've just walked into a carefully prepared trap. The tactical display suddenly exploded with new contacts as human ships decloaked around the Zephyr. Federation sensors designed to detect known technology types had been completely fooled by human stealth systems they had never encountered before. "Impossible," breathed Dr. Kelmris. "Your species doesn't have this level of technology." "Our species has been developing in isolation for over 200 years, Lisa explained. "During that time, we've been very busy. Did you really think a species capable of persistence hunting wouldn't eventually turn those same skills toward warfare?" Captain Mordell reached for his weapon, but froze when he realized that several human soldiers had somehow appeared on the bridge behind him. They wore armor that seemed to bend light around it, making them nearly invisible until they chose to be seen. "I wouldn't recommend that, Captain," Lisa said quietly. "Humans are very good at getting into places we're not supposed to be." Commander Vexitar looked at the tactical display showing over 50 human ships surrounding his vessel, ships that shouldn't exist, carrying technology that humans weren't supposed to possess. "You've been planning this," he said. "For 6 months," Lisa confirmed. "Ever since we detected Federation survey ships approaching our territory. We needed intelligence on your capabilities, so we prepared a scenario that would get one of our agents aboard a Federation vessel. The escape pod was specifically designed to appear damaged while remaining fully functional. My injuries were self-inflicted and minor. The whole refugee story was created to make you underestimate what you were dealing with." Dr. Kelmris stared at her in shock. "Everything you told us about human history, about your species being weak, was completely true," Lisa said. "Humans are individually weak. We are primitive compared to galactic standards. We don't have faster-than-light travel or energy weapons or artificial gravity." She gestured toward the tactical display. "But we do have 2 things that apparently nobody in this galaxy understands. We have patience, and we have the ability to learn from our enemies." "Learn what?" demanded Vextar. "Everything," Lisa replied, simply. "For the past 6 months, human infiltration teams have been gathering intelligence on Federation technology, military doctrine, and strategic planning. Every disabled ship you've rescued, every merchant you've..." The human boarding parties moved through the Zephyr with surgical precision. They wore advanced armor that bent light around them, making them nearly invisible until they chose to be seen. Each team knew exactly where to go and what to secure, showing a level of preparation that chilled the Federation crew. Commander Vextar found himself in his own conference room, but now the positions were reversed. He sat at the table while Lisa Martinez stood before him, no longer the small, helpless refugee he thought he had rescued. "You've been planning this for much longer than 6 months," Vextar accused. Lisa nodded calmly. "Human deep space monitoring. Stations detected Federation expansion patterns 3 years ago. We realized contact was inevitable, so we began preparing. Deep space monitoring stations. Your species doesn't have that technology." "We do now," Lisa replied. "Humans are very good at reverse engineering captured technology. Every pirate attack on Federation vessels in the Outer Rim resulted in detailed study of your equipment." Captain Morrison entered the conference room, removing his helmet to reveal a weathered face with calculating eyes. He was tall for a human, but still smaller than most Federation species. However, there was nothing weak about his bearing. "Status report, Agent Martinez," he requested. "Complete success, sir. Full intelligence package on Federation ship design, communication protocols, strategic doctrine, and individual species capabilities. The crew has been extremely cooperative." Morrison smiled coldly. I'm sure they have. Federation species tend to be very talkative when they think they're dealing with primitives. Dr. Kelmris, who had been silent since the capture, finally spoke up. This is a massive intelligence operation. How many agents do you have throughout Federation space? Enough, Morrison replied, though I think you'd be surprised at how easy it's been to place them. Everyone underestimates humans at first glance. Lisa gestured toward the tactical display, which now showed the true scope of the human fleet. Over 100 ships were visible, ranging from small scouts to massive vessels that dwarfed the Zephyr. The Federation has been very predictable, she explained. Your expansion follows consistent patterns. Your scout ships always take the same approach routes. Your rescue protocols never vary. Your first contact procedures are standardized across all species. Predictability makes you vulnerable, Morrison added, and overconfidence makes you careless. Commander Vextar studied the human officers with growing unease. They spoke about warfare and deception as casually as discussing the weather, showing the same calm professionalism Lisa had displayed during her infiltration. What do you want? He asked. Survival, Morrison answered simply. The Federation has a choice to make. You can recognize human territorial claims and leave us alone, or you can learn why every apex predator in Earth's history eventually went extinct. Apex predator? Dr. Kelmris laughed nervously. You're mammals. Small ones. How can you be apex predators? Lisa and Morrison exchanged a look that might have been amusement. Doctor, Lisa said patiently, what do you think happened to all the other apex predators on Earth? You said they went extinct due to climate change and habitat loss. Some of them, Lisa agreed, but most of them went extinct because humans killed them, deliberately and systematically. Morrison activated a holographic display showing Earth's prehistoric timeline. Saber-toothed cats, cave bears, dire wolves, giant ground sloths, mammoths, mastodons. Everywhere humans spread, the large predators disappeared within a few thousand years. That's impossible, protested Captain Mordell, who had been brought to the conference room under guard. Your species is too weak to threaten creatures that large. Individually, yes, Morrison agreed, but humans don't hunt individually. We hunt in coordinated groups with superior tactics and technology. The hologram shifted to show human hunting parties surrounding a mammoth. The humans carried spears, but more importantly, they moved with coordinated precision that forced the massive creature exactly where they wanted it to go. Size and strength mean nothing when you're outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and facing opponents who refuse to fight by your rules, Lisa explained. But that's just primitive hunting, Dr. Kelmris objected. Galactic warfare is completely different. Morrison smiled coldly. Is it? Let me show you something, Doctor. The hologram changed to display the current tactical situation. Federation territory was shown in blue, with human forces indicated by red markers. The aliens were shocked to see how extensively humans had infiltrated Federation space. For the past 3 years, human agents have been mapping every Federation. Military base, communication relay, supply depot, and strategic installation, Morrison explained. We know your patrol schedules, your response times, your weapon capabilities, and your strategic reserves, Lisa continued the briefing. We've identified the key systems that support Federation infrastructure. Power generation, communication networks, supply chains, administrative centers, all are vulnerable to coordinated attack. You're threatening the entire Federation, Vextar said. No, Morrison corrected. "We're explaining the consequences of threatening humanity. The Federation can choose peace, or it can discover why humans became the dominant species on a planet full of stronger, faster, more dangerous creatures." Dr. Kelmris was studying the tactical display with growing horror. "You're talking about asymmetric warfare on a galactic scale." "We're talking about survival," Lisa said simply. "Humans learned long ago that we can't compete with stronger species in direct confrontation, so we don't fight fair." Morrison gestured toward the display. "Every Federation world depends on interstellar commerce for survival. Disrupt the supply chains and civilian populations start suffering within weeks. Target the communication networks and military coordination collapses, attack the industrial centers, and weapon production stops. But that would cause massive civilian casualties," protested Dr. Kelmris. "Yes, it would," Morrison agreed without emotion. "Which is why we hope the Federation chooses peace instead." The aliens absorbed this information in stunned silence. They were looking at a species that had spent centuries perfecting the art of warfare against superior opponents. "Your species is ruthless," Vextar observed. "Our species is practical," Lisa corrected. "We do whatever is necessary to survive. Always have, always will." Morrison activated another display showing human population centers. The Federation database lists humanity as controlling 30 star systems with 15 billion people. The actual numbers are quite different. The display revealed the truth. Over 200 human settlements scattered across dozens of star systems, with a total population exceeding 50 billion. "We've been expanding much faster than the Federation realizes," Morrison explained. "Hidden colonies, concealed industrial facilities, mobile populations that can relocate when necessary. If the Federation destroys one human world, 10 more will continue the fight." "This is why we needed intelligence on Federation capabilities," Lisa added. "We had to know if peaceful coexistence was possible, or if we needed to prepare for total war." Commander Vextar realized the scope of what he was facing. "You've been preparing to fight the entire Galactic Federation." "If necessary," Morrison confirmed. "Though we'd prefer not to. War is expensive and wasteful, but humans have never surrendered to stronger opponents, and we're not going to start now." The conference room fell silent as the aliens contemplated their situation. They had thought they were rescuing a primitive refugee, but instead they had walked into a carefully planned intelligence operation conducted by a species that viewed the Federation as a potential threat to be studied and countered. "What happens now?" asked Dr. Kelmris. "Now you get to make a choice," Morrison replied. "You can return to Federation space with a message for your superiors. Humanity claims all systems within 50 light-years of Earth as our territorial space. The Federation can recognize those claims and establish normal diplomatic relations, or it can test whether human defensive capabilities match our intelligence-gathering abilities." Lisa moved to stand beside Morrison, and Vextar was struck by how the two humans seemed to complement each other. She provided the analytical intelligence while he supplied the strategic thinking, but both shared the same cold determination. "Commander," Lisa said quietly, "I want you to understand something. Everything I told you about human history was true. We did hunt megafauna to extinction. We did survive ice ages and global catastrophes. We did build empires that lasted thousands of years before falling to more adaptable opponents. But there's one thing I didn't mention," she continued. "In all of human history, no external threat has ever succeeded in destroying our species. Not climate change, not natural disasters, not other predators, not disease, not resource scarcity. Humans adapt, learn, and overcome every challenge we face. Morrison nodded. The Federation can be our partner or our enemy, but it cannot be our master. That choice has never been available, and it never will be, as human soldiers prepared to escort the Federation prisoners to secure areas. Commander Vextar realized that first contact with humanity had gone very differently than anyone had expected. The small, weak species the Federation had dismissed as irrelevant had been studying them like prey animals, preparing for a confrontation that could reshape galactic civilization. And the most terrifying part was that the humans SC